A mass shooting in Baltimore raises serious questions about BPD staffing and communications. Our team is working to get answers. First, we're looking at one suggested solution to deploy the National Guard to prevent tragedies like this. And the alternative help experts say would work better right now. Then we're questioning the mayor over Safe Street's presence at the Brooklyn Day event after BPD says it only learned about it hours earlier. Plus, how residents are pushing back against BGE installing new gas regulators in Baltimore.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
The Independence Day celebration overshadowed by a deadly explosion of gun violence around the nation. From Baltimore to Philadelphia to D.C. to Texas, dozens of people gunned down, including young children. We have reporters here in Baltimore to Washington as our nation deals with a rise in violence.
Meantime, it's been raining buckets around the Baltimore area during the past hour. This is North Baltimore moments ago as that rain came down outside our studios. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Let's provide you with some live pictures right now. This is overlooking Baltimore and Towson. Things are fairly clear out there.
That's right. A little slow traffic as we get into rush hour. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers for what's going to happen over the next few hours.
Did you drive through that?
I did. It was almost had to stop.
It was
right
horrible.
on 83. It was terrible.
Scary.
It was
moments.
bad.
I was on 83 too, and it was terrible.
You know, it's like Florida out there right now. We have so much humidity to work with. Anything to kind of perturb that gives you these isolated showers and thunderstorms. They don't feel isolated when you're stuck under them, I can tell you that. The rain just absolutely blinding, and with, 15, 30-minute rainfall rates of, 1 to 3 inches, it's definitely a little bit hairy. We'll
or Mackenzie Elliott or any other. Oh, this should have happened a long time ago.
Last year, the Randallstown chapter of the NAACP urged Governor Larry Hogan to declare a public emergency and deploy the National Guard to Baltimore in an effort to quell rising gun violence. But the last time the National Guard had boots on the ground was 2015 during the Freddie Gray riots. The Guard is often called to respond to state-level emergencies, but we asked Sergeant Betsy Smith, spokeswoman for the National Police Association, if the Guard came to Baltimore not to arrest but assist. Could they be helpful in curbing crime?
I think what we would end up doing if we brought in the National Guard to Baltimore is we would be endangering those volunteer soldiers.
Former Baltimore Deputy Police Commissioner Jason Johnson agrees.
This is a police problem, and not only the police, but I mean, it extends across the community and the various city agencies. But I mean, primarily we're talking about crime fighting, crime prevention, deterrence. It's really a police and criminal justice problem, and it has to be addressed by those agencies.
Smith suggests calling for federal help to step up instead.
I would implore the mayor of Baltimore to go to the federal government and ask for assistance. We have a large number of federal agents in this country, and it would be great to see the Department of Justice deploy them to cities like Baltimore. But again, they have got to come with prosecutors to quickly and swiftly deal with the violent criminals running the streets.
Like those who opened fire in Brooklyn, leaving 2 dead and 28 others with gunshot wounds and the painful memories that will last a lifetime. Now, we did ask Mayor Brandon Scott's office if the mayor would consider making a request from the National Guard or even from federal resources, but we did not receive a response. Ultimately, it would be up to the governor to call in the National Guard. We asked him the same questions and did not hear back from his office either. Reporting live in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe the mayor should request the National Guard to help curb violence in Baltimore? The poll just opened. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Hearing about the Safe Streets workers that were there previously shows you that there's a lot more work that needs to be done with this program.
Well, some big questions for the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement about Safe Streets workers being at the Brooklyn Day event before gunfire erupted. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues her investigation into the gun violence prevention program. She joins us live with what we're learning today. Mackenzie?
Well, Mary, we know that there were Safe Streets workers at this event earlier Saturday afternoon. Monzi says that a handful of conflicts were mediated earlier in the day, but it's not clear why or when those Safe Streets workers left the Brooklyn Day celebration. We sent a slew of questions to the mayor's office as well as Monzi, trying to get a better understanding of what happened. We're also asking if protocols will change in light of how the situation unfolded. Those questions so far have gone ignored. Meantime, David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance says this mass shooting is just the latest example of the big questions and reasons why there needs to be more transparency and accountability surrounding this gun violence prevention program, especially when it comes to how Safe Streets spends its money. Just last week, the Baltimore Board of Estimates approved millions of more dollars going to the Safe Streets program.
If we don't know where the money is being spent, that we don't know that it's going to the right places and that's actually going to help the people of Baltimore City, you can't call something your flagship program and then have this mass shooting. There needs to be a reality check with the mayor and the city, because he can't keep on heaping praise upon an agency that is failing at every level at this point.
Now, there will be a hearing next week called by some city council members trying to get a better understanding of how the Baltimore Police Department didn't know about this Brooklyn Day event. We'll see if the council members have any more luck getting some answers. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. In the wake of another mass shooting, politicians, victims, and advocates are calling for stricter gun laws. Many argue now is the time to turn this tragedy into an opportunity for change. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports some would rather point fingers than take action themselves, according to critics. Rebecca?
Yeah, that's right. In the days following this tragedy, both the governor and Mayor Scott have been quick to voice their frustrations. But so far, the same can't be said for offering real solutions.
In the aftermath of one of the worst mass shootings the state of Maryland has ever seen, local leaders reciting a familiar cycle of condolences.
Our hearts are with all those who are still recovering. We grieve with you.
And calls for action.
People are dying in Baltimore, in the United States, and that's what should matter, and that's what we should be acting on every day.
I think, frankly, people are tired of the finger pointing in the politics. And nothing happens.
But while state and local officials are quick to point fingers at Washington,
we need those members in Congress who said way back when Columbine happened in 1999, when I was a freshman in high school, they wouldn't have one more because they were going to do something to actually do something.
So far, the 30 shot and 2 lives lost. Not enough for Mayor Brandon Scott or Governor Wes Moore to take action of their own.
You point one finger at someone, there's 3 pointing back at you.
This isn't a Washington, D.C. problem. This is a Maryland problem.
Political analyst John Deedy and Sean Kennedy with the Maryland Public Policy Institute arguing in lieu of placing blame, there's several opportunities for change on the local level.
The governor offered no significant crime proposals in the last session. This has reached the level of crisis where Annapolis should come back into session and do something about it.
Fox 45 sending questions to the governor's office on Monday and again today, asking, will you call for a special session to address the issue? If not, what new actions will you take to prevent gun violence? We also sent questions to the mayor's office asking, why are you calling on Washington and not state leaders to take action? Will you push Maryland lawmakers to call a special session to address gun violence? So far, no response.
The ironic thing is, last week people were calling and hinting at a special session to deal with the gas tax issue. They just don't want their summer vacation interrupted.
Wes Moore says he's filled with broad generalizations and vague statements, but no details. When he shows up with details, I'll listen to him.
It also took 2 full days before Governor Westmore came to Baltimore in person for a visit. When we asked him yesterday where he was and why he wasn't in Baltimore immediately after this tragedy, Moore not giving us any clear answers. Reporting live from City Hall, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. According to the results of a Gonzales poll released last month, Marylanders would support state lawmakers passing a bill increasing the severity of penalties for people with illegal guns. The poll found that out of all voters, Democrats and Republicans, 89% want possession of a stolen firearm to be a felony. The poll's operator says it had by far the most bipartisan support of any question in the most recent poll.
Well, following the release of the Gonzales poll, Maryland House Republicans issued a statement calling on Democrats to support their proposals on crime. Among them, a bill that would make stealing a handgun a felony. The others include the Violent Firearm Offender Act and the Repeat Violent Offenders Act. Those would have made the use of a gun during a violent crime a felony and increased fines or jail time for repeat firearm convictions. The only bill targeting criminals this past legislative session made the maximum penalty for illegally possessing a firearm uniform. It raised the misdemeanor sentence up to 5 years for those over 21. Now, the NRA, it's suing Maryland over Senate Bill 1. The Gun Safety Act of 2023 restricts where legal wear and carry permit holders can bring a gun. It is scheduled to take effect October 1st, but a similar law in New Jersey was blocked by the courts.
There are lingering questions about how cocaine got into the White House. Straight ahead, a full report from Washington.
A major fire blamed on fireworks destroys a $1 million home. How it happened, coming up.
And the class action lawsuit against BGE grows. Live coverage as a new group of Baltimore residents comes forward.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Take a look at this. A Montgomery County home is lost after a plastic bag with discarded fireworks ignites, causing a fast-moving fire. It happened late last night in Aspen Hill. More than 75 first responders helped fight that massive fire. One firefighter was hurt but is expected to be okay. The fire caused more than $1 million in damage. There are new developments in the class action lawsuit against BGE and its external gas regulators. More people have signed on to sue the utility company.
1 week ago, a judge sided with homeowners granting a 10-day restraining order. That move forced BGE to stop installing the controversial regulators and turn gas back on in homes that had been shut off for objecting the work.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now with new information on that growing lawsuit. Amy?
Mary Kai, there are now more than 300 plaintiffs that have signed on to this class action lawsuit. And among those new names pushing back against BGE are several West Baltimore residents. Now, earlier today, a resident along North Smallwood Street in West Baltimore said they petitioned and even attempted their own lawsuit against BGE last fall when the utility giant came in and started installing those external gas regulators. While BGE claims that the external regulators are for safety and to improve gas delivery across the city, residents have said that the project lacks transparency and is causing damage to homes and neighborhoods against their will. Today, one West Baltimore woman whose family has lived along North Smallwood for 7 decades said her gas was shut off from Halloween to Christmas for initially refusing to have one of those external regulators installed.
It didn't add up, and we found it very difficult to get clear, definitive answers to why it was needed, and every neighbor was told a different story.
You're seeing right now the kinds of issues that unite us all. BG&E has tried to divide and conquer us, but we won't let it happen.
And today, BGE said it cannot comment on pending litigation, also saying it does not comment on individual customer accounts or complaints. This case, that class action lawsuit, will be back in front of a judge on Monday afternoon. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
All right, and after kind of a deluge here in North Baltimore, things have really quieted down over our station, at least. The leftovers of that band of cells right around Elkridge to Jessup and Bentwoods, Nottingham, Ferdinand Heights, and then there's a lot more down around D.C., and then there's a couple more cells that are along the eastern shore. Again, this stuff is very isolated, but if you're getting it, it's going to come down pretty good and pretty fast. You see there Chestertown to Crumpton and Chesterville also getting some of that rain, and you put it in motion. You see these things, they're what they actually are called pulse thunderstorms. They kind of pulse up and then they dissipate. That's the same deal that happened here up towards the city. You can actually see what happened in Baltimore over about a half hour to an hour's time. Boom, big storms, and then all gone. And that's going to be the case actually probably the next couple of days with some of these. It's only about a 20-30% chance that you're going to get some rain, so I wouldn't cancel plans, but you may have to deal with this as you're heading home commuting. Now, we already had about 1 to 2 inches of rain easy in about 15 to 30 minutes time. I know right outside here, our West 41st Street Bridge started flooding as we had some of that heavy rain coming down. That, of course, is all gone now. But this is the kind of thing that you're going to see. Back to Olney and Brookville, Highland, as well as Columbia, getting anywhere, at least locally, up to about an inch of rain at times. So this is going to be the situation. There's not a whole lot of weather makers that are actually in play right now. There's a cold front that's off the coast. Hasn't really made a big dent in any of our heat or humidity. I mean, it still made it to 92 today. But the bigger storms with that, the more severe type weather is down to the south. And we're just getting this pop-up stuff happening during the afternoon. And this drier weather that's out to the west, it's trying to work in. But again, not fully siphoning out any of the storms that we're seeing right now. And then there may be another weather maker that heads into the weekend that could give us another risk of some more widespread rain. Mile 1 Tascam, 80 degrees right now, and clouds and some kind of hazy fog out there. Winds out of the north-northwest is 7 miles an hour. We've cooled down to 80 in Baltimore with the rain, 80 degrees at Cockeysville. Outside of the rain, though, we're still well into the 90s. Some of the heat indexes are as high as about 100 to 110. So take it slow and easy out there if you haven't seen the rain. And if you have seen the rain, well, we'll have a brief cool down, but then temperatures will heat up again for late day. Spot showers all the way through about 6:45, 7 o'clock. But after that, I think things pretty much die out. It's just mild and muggy overnight. Temperatures back into the 70s. We do it all over again with that Florida-type weather for tomorrow. Maybe a couple of downpours here and there. And temperatures, again, probably going to be into the 90s for tomorrow afternoon. A look at your 7-day forecast. 91 for Thursday, 91 for Friday. Those spot storms in the afternoon. Looks like increasing chances of rain by the end of the weekend. Some spot storms Saturday. That could be another day of 90. Could be 6 or 7 days of 90-plus in a row, dropping down into the 80s for Sunday, perhaps even Monday before the heat returns Tuesday, Wednesday of next week.
When you put mail in your mailbox, is it safe? The latest from a report on mail theft and what you might want to start doing. Water from a nuclear disaster being released in the ocean after a decade in storage. What we're learning tonight. And cocaine found near the West Wing. The questions being asked around the White House today. Back with live pictures of the White House this afternoon. A lab test confirmed a substance found at the White House is indeed cocaine. So how did cocaine make it into a lobby area near the West Wing? Well, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre notes President Biden and his family were not at the White House this weekend. She says Biden was briefed by his staff on what is known so far.
Where this was discovered is a heavily traveled area where many White House, West Wing, I should be even more specific, West Wing visitors come through this particular area.
Well, the Secret Service is leading the investigation. Jean-Pierre says the White House is confident it will get to the bottom of what happened. Curfew centers standing empty. Coming up, Fox 45 News investigating the city's changing plan to keep kids away from violence this summer.
Who's to blame for the rash of violence over the holiday weekend? I'm Janae Bowens in Washington. Coming up, I'll tell you who's responsible and what's being done to prevent crime.
And make your orders now as a strike by UPS looking increasingly likely. It is just about 4:30, and Fox 45 News is live with two big stories. An epidemic of gun violence shows its grip around the nation during July 4th celebrations, the number of mass shootings, and the blame going around.
First, after a month of youth curfew going into effect in Baltimore, Fox 45 News is learning about more changes.
The curfew is over, and what we need him to do is man up and say, hey, it was a bad idea. I made a mistake. It failed. So we decided to close all centers.
Fox 45 News continues to demand accountability in the mayor's $1 million plan to keep young people away from violence this summer.
And that plan includes youth connection centers where young people found wandering the streets after hours are supposed to be taken if they want.
As we've reported, those centers are being underutilized. And now we've learned the only center still open is drastically cutting its hours. Jeff Abel has the story.
Baltimore has had a curfew ordinance in place for much of my lifetime.
From the beginning, the mayor vowed that the city's new style of enforcing curfew would be relentless.
And we're going to do everything to save our young people, including enforcing curfew.
But now, 6 weeks into the effort, there are questions whether the city's strategy has become more relaxed than relentless. The effort relies on volunteers to engage youth violators and encourage them to go home or agree to be transported to this curfew connection center in Park Heights, where they're treated to food and games while they await a ride home. According to the city, the curfew center would be open each weekend until 3 in the morning, but sources tell Fox 45 that has hardly been the case. This past Friday, the start of the holiday weekend, sources tell us the center shut down at 11 p.m., which is the same time the curfew for many teens begins. On Saturday, the center shut down at midnight, and 30 minutes after the volunteers went home, the bullets began flying in Brooklyn, injuring more than a dozen teenagers. The very next night, it was another midnight closing, 3 hours before it was slated to shut down.
The curfew is over, and what we need him to do is man up and say, hey, it was a bad idea. I made a mistake. It failed. So we decided to close all centers.
Last week, the city did close another community center in Northeast Baltimore after no violators had agreed to be transported to either center. The week after the city launched its curfew strategy, the rear window on a curfew van similar to this one was shattered. Volunteers inside that van were forced to retreat. Activist Kenji Scott says it's time to put the brakes on the city's effort, which is costing taxpayers more than $1 million.
We could have seen a lot of good places that $1 million could have went to really provide some real serious services to these young people.
That was Jeff Abel reporting. Last week, the city admitted it's still assessing the program and making adjustments and has not addressed why the program is closing hours before schedule.
Well, the program runs entirely through volunteers tasked with manning the connection centers and driving kids out past curfew to those centers in city vans. Critics say without proper training for the volunteers, the strategy won't work.
Anyone that volunteers is going to be putting themselves in harm's way.
What amount of training are you going to be able to give these people in such a short period of time that you think they're going to be effective with?
One of the curfew vans was vandalized in early June. Police say somebody threw an object at the back window, shattering it.
The curfew was put back in place after a rise in youth crime in Baltimore and around Maryland.
I covered the story of one kid who had 4 prior gun arrests in a year and a half, but was always just released. And then he went out and did a very serious shooting. Where's the failure?
Oh, I think the failure is to not sort of seriously intervene in that young person's life. Sometimes that serious intervention means detaining them in a locked facility. Sometimes it means providing them with the kind of supports and services that are going to turn them around.
Well, Fox 45 News has done extensive reporting on what we're seeing when it comes to young people and violence. Head to foxbaltimore.com for more reporting.
Well, the struggle with gun violence around the country is showing its grip over the Independence holiday.
From right here in Baltimore, of course, to Texas, to Philadelphia, there were 16 mass shootings. As we've been reporting here in Baltimore alone, the victims included 30 people.
Janae Bowens is looking into what's fueling the violence and the way out.
Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. are just a few of the communities that saw deadly shootings this holiday weekend.
The people shooting. They're the ones to blame.
Cully Stimson, a former prosecutor and crime control policy expert, says part of the problem when it comes to violent crime is what he calls progressive prosecutors who do not enforce the law.
So you're seeing violent teens assaulting nannies and moms, walking in broad daylight in San Francisco. You're seeing what's happening in Washington, D.C. over the weekend with people driving up in a van and just shooting people who are just enjoying fireworks. You see what's happening in Philadelphia.
On Monday in Philadelphia, a mass shooting left 5 dead and 2 children wounded. The suspect has been identified as 40-year-old Kim Brady Carricker. The New York Post reports Carricker is a Black Lives Matter supporter. Reports show Carricker had been arrested in 2003 and faced several charges, including possessing a weapon illegally. But it appears he did not face jail time.
According to the National Association of Police, 9 out of 10 police departments are short-staffed, which experts say is a major concern when it comes to violent crime.
We have had 3 years of the vilification and the demonization of the American law enforcement officer.
But President Biden and other Democrats say the violence is an issue of guns.
Congress needs to step up, pass common sense gun safety laws to protect our kids and educators.
We as a country still allow the sanctity of American guns to outweigh the sanctity of Americans' lives, and particularly Americans' children's lives, and that is something that we have to change.
While there's no clear consensus on how to reduce this kind of violence, the latest data from Pew Research Center shows a growing number of both Democrat and Republican voters say violent crime is a major problem for the country. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens.
Taking a look at the Fox 45 quad box, the search is underway in Lansing, Michigan after a 2-year-old was abducted. The FBI is offering a $25,000 reward in the search for Winter Smith. Police have the boyfriend of the child's mother in custody.
Also in the Midwest, cleanup continues in Wisconsin after a train carrying wheat, seed, and clay derailed. 29 cars derailed east of Madison. No injuries nor hazardous waste has been reported.
The gunman charged in a deadly mass shooting inside of a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, is facing the families of the victims. The 24-year-old has pled guilty to 90 charges. 23 people were killed in that shooting.
Japan will soon be releasing treated radioactive water from the Fukushima power plant into the ocean. It comes 12 years after the nuclear meltdown there. International atomic energy officials will monitor the discharge.
Developing right now, UPS is nearing its first strike in more than 25 years. This afternoon, the company and the union representing the workers walked away from the bargaining table. The two sides can't agree on larger issues surrounding pay and cost of living increases. The current labor contract expires at the end of July. The last strike at UPS lasted 15 days in 1997. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab.
Well, it's so Baltimore, isn't it? Mark your calendars because tomorrow in Owings Mills, a special event is happening to show your soft side.
Mark Clark explains.
We're at the Marriott Owings Mills Metro Center. I'm with John Rollo. And John, we're getting ready for the Softy Homecoming.
Yep.
And so you've been a part of the organization for years. Tell us about the organization.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Soft Side is an organization that helps to combat animal violence, especially with kids in the city who kind of thought it was glorified when the stuff went down with Michael Vick.
Mm-hmm.
So the Soft Side is, the Softies are basically people that are in the sports and entertainment industry who try to lend their voice to show that it's not cool to hurt animals. You know, the slogan is only a punk would hurt a cat or a dog.
Wow.
So, you know, we feel that these little guys and ladies need a voice, and hopefully we're here to help show that it's never cool to injure an animal.
Definitely. So people get a chance to participate. The event is on the way. They'll have a chance to vote, and you could possibly be. Have you been the king before? Homecoming king before?
My wife thinks I'm a king, I like to say. But yeah, even if you can't make it, you can go to showyoursoftside.org. You can vote for the homecoming king and queen. Let's see, you know, and it's going to be able. You can also get there's a silent auction that's also on showyoursoftside.org. So definitely we want you to get out there and help raise money for a great cause.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you for not grounding and pounding me for putting that on your head. A great cause, guys. I'm Mark Clark, Fox 45 News.
Well, threats to the mail sitting in your inbox right now. We'll have the latest on a rise in mail theft and what you can do.
It is a battle over the BMI, or body mass index. I'm Liz Bonas. Why healthcare providers say it may not be the best tool for our future health. It is just ahead.
And this afternoon's commute, maybe not quite as rainy as the past few, but there's still going to be a stray thunderstorm. Otherwise, warmth and humidity stays. Temperatures in the 80s. AC is going to be on. I'll let you know how long you're going to have to keep it on and how long our heat wave lasts in my Weather Authority forecast.
In today's Health Watch, brushing your teeth impacts your risk of heart disease. Researchers in Japan found only brushing in the morning apparently isn't enough. Brushing teeth before bed apparently lowers the risk of periodontal disease and tooth decay. Dental diseases have consistently been associated with higher heart disease risk. The study included more than 1,600 adults. You may want to ask your doctor about your height to weight ratio. Medical reporter Liz Bonas explains the BMI is now a hot health debate.
Hey there, everybody. This battle over BMI, or body mass index, has been brewing for a while now. The American Medical Association recently updated its policy on using BMI as a tool for assessing health and obesity. BMI is a measure of body fat based on height and weight, but obesity specialists say other things may be better predictors of your future health, such as where you carry that weight. Dr. George Kurlakian is an obesity surgeon with Ohio's Tri-Health.
I think we are finding out that the real culprit is that visceral fat, or the fat in the middle portion of your body, the fat storage in the middle portion of your body, as the real determinant of disease.
Others, such as Renee Mahaffey-Harris of the Center for Closing the Health Gap, say the other concern about using BMI is that cultural diversity wasn't taken into account when the BMI numbers were assigned.
We've known for many years, many decades, that the BMI calculator, or the way in which BMI is calculated, was disproportionate based on race, specifically those who are not Hispanic white. were not necessarily very representative of the data that configured that calculator.
Now, just in case you're wondering about the current numbers, here's the way they stack up. Under 18.5 as a BMI is underweight. The healthy weight range is about 25 to 30. It falls within the overweight range if you are 30 or higher, and then obesity at 35. Right now, it's suggested these numbers be used as one assessment tool, but not the only one for your future health risks. Waist measurements, such as under 40 for guys, 35 for women, good tool for health. Blood pressure that's no more than 120/80, also a good number. And even measuring body fat versus muscle mass can be measured. Good ranges, 21 to 32 for most women, 8 to 19% for guys. Now, body fat suggestions are slightly higher in those who are older. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Back to you.
If you felt like it's been hotter than usual this summer, you're right. This past Monday and Tuesday were apparently the hottest days since record keeping began. That according to data from the University of Maine. The same scientists predict today could also reach uncharted territory. And data from European computer models finds the globe set a record for the warmest June since at least 1940. Wow, Jonathan.
Yeah, and that's all worldwide numbers, but we've been hot in our own right here. A couple of degrees above average for the past several days, in fact, as high temperatures have been making it up above 90 degrees, but that's not so atypical for around here this time of year. You can see here the showers from Federalsburg down to Trapp, as well as east of Cambridge to Hurlock. There's some heavy rainers there on the eastern shore, and then back on the northern portion of the eastern shore, too, right around Chestertown. And then there's another round that's been kind of around D.C., but that continues to now pull down toward La Plata and Rosaryville in extreme southern Maryland. Outside of that, that's pretty much the only games in town. And this is going to be the situation not only for the rest of today, where we have some of the isolated showers and some of the thunderstorms. And boy, we got some pretty good ones downtown. Looks like we're going to be seeing another round potentially for tomorrow and maybe also as we head on into Friday. Then for the weekend, notice those bigger showers and storms, big band from St. Louis to Chicago. Some of that moisture is going to start to work in. There could be a cold front that tries to make its way in here. It's not going to have a whole lot of progress, but it could increase a rain chance once again by Sunday. Now, in terms of rain, boy, these have been some efficient rain producers. Stuff's all gone now over Baltimore, but how about 2 inches right around Charles Village as well as TV Hill? This all happened in about 15 to 30 minutes, right around 3 o'clock. About 1 inch of rain east of Guilford, and then back down to Colonial Park and south and west into Howard County, southern portions of Baltimore County. Got anywhere up to 1 to 2+ inches as well. And that did create some minor flooding. And that'll also be a concern out of any of these storms over the next several days. So, though, again, the biggest weather makers are fairly far away. There's a cold front that's off the coast. That thing's diminishing, still humid, and really just acting as kind of a focusing mechanism for the stronger, bigger, more widespread storms well down to our south. And then there's that other round I was talking about that's out to the west that gradually will approach. A lot of this stuff going to stay up into the upper Midwest and down to the south as we head into tomorrow as well as into Friday. But notice this band of rain that's around Omaha. There's kind of a more, I'd say, well put together aspect to that. And I think that weather maker will move in over the weekend. So if you have plans outside, I think Saturday is going to be your better day, although there's a somewhat increased chance of storms, and then Sunday could be quite rainy. 80 degrees right now, winds out of the north-northwest at 7 miles an hour behind those storms. Our humidity at 71%. Heat index not too bad at 82 as we are rain-cooled. You can really pick out the rain-cooled numbers in the 70s to around 80 degrees. Dropping temperatures a full about 15 degrees as that rain comes in. But places like Westminster, you haven't seen rain. We're at 93, 95 at Frederick, and temperatures in the low 90s along the eastern shore. And get a load of this, although the heat index here in Baltimore is only at 91, feels like triple digits. That's nearly dangerous at Frederick, and also temperatures feeling like the low and mid 100s on the eastern shore. So again, those spot showers as we head through the rest of this evening. By about sunset, most of those are going to be gone. Temperatures dropping down into the 70s overnight. And I think we're going to do this all over again for tomorrow. Temperatures working up to about 90 to 95. Guess what? Again on Friday, more of the same. Saturday, too, with a high near 90. There's that better risk of showers and storms Sunday. Maybe somewhat less humid Monday, but hot again Tuesday, Wednesday, and next week.
The
Powerball jackpot exceeds $500 million before tonight's drawing. It's estimated at $546 million, with the $282 million cash value. The last jackpot winner was April 19 from Ohio. The highest jackpot winner ever, worth more than $2 billion, was sold last November in California. Coming up at 5 o'clock, why did Safe Streets workers leave early? And why didn't the police department know about the event? Fox 45 is demanding answers.
I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. The drastic move some retirees are making or considering to save money, here's a hint, it involves packing your bags.
The Postal Service says mail theft is rising. USPS confirms an increase in robberies of letter carriers in a statement to USA Today. In May, the Postal Service reported more than 300 on-duty robberies in the first half of the year. In that same period, more than 25,000 high-volume thefts were reported. Thieves frequently are looking for checks they can change, then cash. The Postal Service suggests paying your bills virtually, online, retrieve mail daily. Don't drop mail into collection boxes overnight. And if you're heading out of town, you should hold your mail for that period of time you're out of town. More Americans are leaving the U.S. Post Office post-retirement to move abroad. The National Desk Angela Brown explains why money is the driving factor.
So where are people moving to? International Living, their website, has a list of the cheapest places to live in the world. For example, Italy costs about half of what it costs to live right here in the U.S. They looked at things like groceries, gym memberships, and other daily activities. U.S. retirees are packing their bags, fleeing the high cost of living and expensive health care, and moving overseas for a new experience and more affordable lifestyle.
We do know that for a lot of individuals, the cost of living is a big driver. They can go to countries where it just costs less to live.
The cost of living in the U.S. rising, with seniors feeling the pinch. Fidelity reporting a healthy 65-year-old couple retired in the U.S. will need about $300,000 saved to cover health care expenses alone throughout their retirement. Another major cost on the rise, assisted living.
You could easily spend $100,000 or more a year on a nursing home or assisted living stay.
Maintaining citizenship in the U.S., however, poses new challenges when it comes to navigating finances and also taxes, the potential for double taxation, and securing the proper visa.
Americans who are moving overseas are still subject to a lot of the tax and compliance legislation and regulations.
A recent Gallup poll found 71% of non-retired adults are at least moderately worried about funding their retirement. 42% say they are very worried. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
All right, if you're staying around here as we head into the weekend, it looks like our future scan says could be a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms Friday as well as Saturday afternoon, kind of like today. And then Sunday, that's when our bigger rain could come. So may want to have some indoor plans ready for Sunday. It's still going to be kind of hot and humid all the way throughout for our Friday, Saturday, still into the 90s. Sunday with that better chance of rain and some more cloud cover. High temperatures about 85 to 90. Very summery pattern. If you're going down the ocean this weekend, look at that. Water temperature, beautiful, 75 degrees. Friday looking like a great day for getting there. 81 degrees, mostly sunny, partly cloudy on Saturday, 82. And on Sunday, 79, and a little better chance of some scattered showers. Maybe not as much rain as we're going to have around here, though.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, is the National Guard the answer? Experts weigh in on what can be done to combat Baltimore's police shortage. Are they pointing fingers or taking action? The steps the governor and mayor could take to tackle violent crime and how they're responding to the weekend's mass shooting.
Well, police knew about the block party in Brooklyn homes hours before the mass shooting, but didn't get there until it was too late, putting together a timeline on the response and pressing leaders about Safe Streets involvement.
Our Baltimore police up to the task. The concerns that staffing shortages played a role in the mass shooting this weekend. Experts look for solutions.
And some heavy rain moved through late this afternoon. The latest on whether you're going to have to deal with more showers tonight.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
Fox 45 News presses leaders for answers on the deadly mass shooting in Brooklyn this weekend, asking why there was a communication breakdown between the Safe Streets program and police, while also looking into whether there are enough officers to keep the city safe.
2 people were killed, 28 others shot when multiple gunmen opened fire at the block party early Sunday morning. Police say they are still searching for suspects, but have not said exactly how many.
18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez and 20-year-old Kylis Fagbemi lost their lives in that shooting. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News was first on the scene of that tragedy, and we're continuing our comprehensive team coverage right now, starting with Mackenzie Frost. Mackenzie?
Well, Mary and Kai, we know that we're starting to piece together a little bit of a timeline of what happened during Brooklyn Day. We know Baltimore police say they found out about this event hours before the mass shooting took place. And we're also demanding answers from Monzi to find out why Safe Streets workers who were there left and why no one told the Baltimore Police Department this event was taking place. Before 11 o'clock Saturday night,
it's quite a big crowd.
Dispatch audio revealing Baltimore police knew a crowd was gathering.
It's Greg McCord, but there is probably close to 900 to 1,000 people, so just stay back.
And people there concerned about safety.
Discharging a firearm, 8:15 Herndon Court, people shooting and fighting at the location, anonymous caller.
But when police showed up on scene a few hours later, 30 people had been shot already, 2 young people killed.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here.
During a news conference Monday afternoon, Acting BPD Commissioner Richard Worley says the department didn't know about the event until it was happening, but the city's flagship gun violence prevention program did.
Earlier in the evening, some of our Safe Street staff, just as a part of their community activities, were out there and actively de-escalated 3 to 4 conflicts.
It's unclear when Safe Streets workers were at Brooklyn Day, but we know Monzi did not alert BPD of the massive gathering. So we sent several questions to Mayor Brandon Scott's office and Monzi, including how did Safe Streets workers find out about Brooklyn Day? What time did they leave, and why didn't they stay at the event later? Will protocols change within Monzi and other city agencies to relay information about potential threats?
This was a failure on many levels.
David Williams, president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, says the mass shooting is another red flag for a program designed to prevent gun violence.
There needs to be a reality check with the mayor and the city, because he can't keep on heaping praise upon an agency that is failing at every level at this point. If this really is the future of Baltimore City, Safe Streets should have had a presence there all day, not just part of the day.
Williams also calling for more accountability for the money being spent on Safe Streets. Monzi just announcing $5.1 million in federal COVID relief money going to Catholic charities to run Safe Streets, the same nonprofit running the Brooklyn location, located just blocks away from Brooklyn homes.
This is a failure on so many levels, and giving money to these nonprofits may be the ultimate failure.
The Catholic Charities contract, good for 2 years, and the same organization getting $3.9 million last week from the city to run Cherry Hill and Penn North Safe Street sites. $12 million awarded to LifeBridge's Center for Hope to run 8 sites for the next 2 years. Meanwhile, Mayor Scott and Monzi ignoring our questions Wednesday about Safe Streets' role or what will change moving forward to potentially prevent another chaotic and deadly scene from playing out in more Baltimore communities. Now, next week, the Baltimore City Council will hold a hearing to try and get some answers to some of the same questions that we're asking now. We'll have to wait and see if they have any more luck to find out what happened. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Acting Police Commissioner Rich Worley says the city has enough officers to keep citizens safe despite a shortage of more than 500 officers. Now, many of those open positions are for patrol officers. The police union, which represents officers, tells Fox 45 there are 600 officers assigned to patrols. They are spread across the 9 police districts in the city, which breaks down to 10 to 14 per shift in each district. Worley says they are looking into claims that only 7 officers were assigned to South Baltimore the night of the shooting.
With massive police shortages, the department is in need of help, and now there actually may be a way. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at this. Maxine?
Well, Mary, after another mass shooting just last month along York Road and Cold Spring Lane, community members at a meeting were calling for the National Guard to come in and help. And last year, the Randallstown chapter of the NAACP urged Governor Larry Hogan then to declare a public emergency and deploy the National Guard to Baltimore in an effort to help quell gun violence, but that never happened. We asked Sergeant Betsy Smith, a spokeswoman for the National Police Association, if the Guard came to Baltimore not to arrest but assist, could they be helpful in curbing crime?
I think what we would end up doing if we brought in the National Guard to Baltimore is we would be endangering those volunteer soldiers. I would implore the mayor of Baltimore to go to the federal government and ask for assistance. We have a large number of federal agents in this country, and it would be great to see the Department of Justice deploy them to cities like Baltimore. But again, they have got to come with prosecutors to quickly and swiftly deal with the violent criminals running the streets.
And Maxine, what does the mayor have to say about the possibility of the National Guard being used?
So we asked Mayor Brandon Scott's office if requesting the National Guard to come in would be something that he would consider, and if he'd also consider asking for federal help, like suggested by Smith, but we did not hear back from his office today. Ultimately, Mary, it would be up to Governor Moore to make the call for the National Guard to come in. We sent those same questions to his office. Didn't get a response from him either. Reporting live in Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
That brings us to our question of the day. Should Mayor Brandon Scott request the National Guard to help curb violence in Baltimore? So far, 80% of voters say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com. After the tragedy in Brooklyn, politicians, victims, and advocates are calling for stricter gun laws. Some argue now is the time to turn the tragedy into an opportunity for change. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports some say they'd rather point fingers than take action now.
That's right. In the days following this tragedy, state and local leaders have offered no new solutions to this crisis. Instead, they've been reciting the exact same cycle of condolences and calls to action that we hear time and time again. Take a listen.
I think, frankly, people are tired of the finger pointing in the politics when nothing happens.
We need those members in Congress who said way back when Columbine happened in 1999, when I was a freshman in high school, they wouldn't have one more because they were going to do something to actually do something.
Both Governor Wes Moore and Mayor Brandon Scott placing the blame on Washington. However, according to two political analysts that I spoke with, the mounting number of mass shootings in Maryland is not a problem for D.C. It's an issue that needs to be tackled here at home.
The governor offered no significant crime proposals in the last session. This has reached a level of crisis where Annapolis should come back into session and do something about it.
They just don't want their summer vacation interrupted. That's what it comes down to, because there are things and actions they could consider taking on a variety of things.
Now, Fox 45 has sent questions to the governor's office several times this week asking him, will you call a special session to come up with new solutions to the ongoing crisis of gun violence in our state? As the Newsroom tonight, though, we have not heard back. Reporting in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. According to the results of a Gonzales poll released last month, Marylanders would support state lawmakers passing a bill increasing the severity of penalties for people with illegal guns. That poll found that out of all voters, Democrats and Republicans, 89% want possession of a stolen firearm to be a felony. The poll's operator says that question had by far the most bipartisan support of any question in the most recent poll.
And following the release of that Gonzales poll, Maryland House Republicans issued a statement calling on Democrats to support their proposals on crime. Among them, a bill that would make stealing a handgun a felony. The others include the Violent Firearm Offender Act and the Repeat Violent Offenders Act. Those would have made the use of a gun during a violent crime a felony and increased fines or jail time for repeat firearm convictions. Now, the only bill targeting criminals this past session made the maximum penalty for illegally possessing a firearm uniform. It raised the misdemeanor sentence up to 5 years for those over 21. Now, the NRA is suing Maryland over Senate Bill 1. The Gun Safety Act of 2023 restricts where legal wear and carry permit holders can bring a gun. It is scheduled to take effect October 1st, but a similar law in New Jersey was blocked by the courts.
We're still seeing new reactions to the weekend's violence. The city state's attorney's office tweeted these pictures of community engagement teams working to help community members in Brooklyn days after the shooting. Congressman Kwesi Mfume tweeted out a statement saying gun violence is being used by a small group of people to hold Baltimore hostage, while promising to do what he can at the federal level to make a difference in the city.
Well, after clear skies for most of the day, we saw some heavy, crazy rain move across Baltimore today. This is video taken from just outside our station in North Baltimore, shows just how hard the rain was coming down. And taking a live look outside right now, overlooking Baltimore and Towson, the rain letting up in the past 2 hours.
Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here with the very latest.
And as quick as it came, it's gone. Had some rain, even had some flooding on the West 41st Street Bridge just outside of the station here. So things were nasty for a time, but now on the HD radar on the eastern shore up to Chestertown. This is where those heavier showers are now. Even a couple of lightning strikes, not a ton, but again, nothing severe here. But the big rains is a potential problem. It comes down very fast in a very short period of time. Trapped down to Cambridge, getting some of that as well. And then the rest of the area is fairly rain-free, although we still could pop a shower storm all the way through the remainder of the evening. Look at some of these rain totals. This came down in like 15 to 30 minutes. 1 to 2, even locally, over 2 inches of rain out of some of these storms rolling through. Now, again, they are gone. So if you're going to take a dip in the pool, I'd keep an eye out of the sky. But for the most part, it's only about a 20% chance of rain through the evening. 87 at 6 p.m., almost Florida weather. Temperature is going to be in the low to mid 80s and muggy. 7 and 8. I'm going to let you know how much of that rain chance comes back again tomorrow. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Hundreds more people signing on to sue BGE, the ongoing battle over new external gas regulators. And another mass shooting in Maryland, multiple dead in D.C. and across the country. Taking a closer look at how violence spiked on Independence Day.
A dramatic decision by a federal judge, essentially preventing the federal government from communicating with social media companies. I'm Christine Frizzau on Capitol Hill with what this means moving forward.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Making headlines, a suspect has been charged in the Philadelphia shooting that killed 5 people. The 40-year-old suspect has been arraigned on multiple charges, including murder. He was denied bail and will stay in police custody. Police say the suspect appeared to fire randomly along several blocks before officers caught him. He reportedly had an AR-style rifle, a 9mm handgun, and bulletproof vest, and a scanner that tracked emergency radio traffic.
Well, the sentencing hearing for a man who fatally shot 23 people at an El Paso Walmart begins today. In February, the gunman pleaded guilty to 90 charges related to the 2019 incident in which 23 victims were killed. Half of the charges are federal hate crimes. Authorities say the 24-year-old carried out the shooting in order to kill immigrants. Federal prosecutors said they wouldn't seek the death penalty. However, the gunman may still get the death penalty if he's convicted on state charges.
The white substance found in the White House this weekend was, in fact, cocaine. The primary test results from Sunday now confirmed by additional lab testing. The drugs were discovered on the first floor near the entrance to the West Wing in a heavily trafficked area. President Biden was not at the White House when the drugs were discovered.
Well, tonight, a ruling from a federal judge against several top officials in the Biden administration, as well as government agencies. They are no longer allowed to communicate with social media companies unless there is a criminal or national security reason to do so. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has details.
It was a stunning revelation last summer.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert.
From Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg to Twitter's former head of trust and safety, laying out multiple examples of back-channel communications between the federal government and big tech in regards to a story about Hunter Biden's laptop and information about the COVID-19 pandemic, which sometimes led to posts being taken down or restricted. Louisiana's Attorney General Jeff Landry, along with former Attorney General Eric Schmidt of Missouri, now a U.S. Senator, filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration for violating the First Amendment.
What the government can do is, this administration can stand up there with the press secretary and say, look, we believe X, Y, and Z. What they can't do then is threaten and coerce social media companies to take down differing points of view. Dissent. That's what they did here.
A federal judge agreeing, now barring multiple federal agencies and several government officials from engaging in any communication of any kind with social media companies. In his ruling this week, writing that during the COVID-19 pandemic, a period characterized by widespread doubt and uncertainty, the U.S. government seems to have assumed a role similar to an Orwellian ministry of truth. That widespread doubt and uncertainty, though, a top reason why the Biden administration says it got involved to provide information to these social media companies and to protect public health at a time misinformation about COVID-19 was spreading faster than the virus itself.
If they find themselves infected with a coronavirus using Miracle Mineral Solution.
Social media platforms rife with people trying to make money off fake COVID cures, which could harm people. Top health officials arguing it was their job to protect them. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
And let's take a live look outside at the Inner Harbor in Towson right now. We've seen on again, off again showers. In fact, a deluge, though, for a little while. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers is here with the latest on what comes next.
Yeah, Jonathan's walking in right now.
Yeah, here we are.
We were all driving to work at that time.
Incredible amounts of rain coming out of very isolated storms. So not everybody's seeing it, but where you got it good. And there was a solid 1 to 2+ inches of rain here in North Baltimore over the station. That continues to move east from Easton all the way down to points on the eastern shore, south of Elkton as well. Some pretty good rain still coming down here, even some lightning and thunder. So if you have any travels, maybe back from the beach, if you're going to be going through Cambridge, Trapp, Easton area, there's going to be some Pretty rough weather with some rumblers coming through there. And then Washington, D.C., you actually had some flooding earlier, just like we had localized flooding in Baltimore. They actually did issue a flood warning for western sides of the city out into northern Virginia. But outside of that, pretty much quiet scan. This is some good news as we're getting through now the second portion of our afternoon and evening commute. I know that a lot of folks are heading on back to work after about 3-4 days. And look at all this acreage of not a whole lot, all the way back to Lexington and Nashville. So it's going to be kind of the same situation, I think, for tomorrow like we saw today. And in fact, all the way through Friday, where we had these spot storms that developed during the afternoon. But then look west of that towards St. Louis and Chicago. There actually is a system there. That's a cold front that's putting on the brakes for now. So again, we're just kind of left in this kind of muggy and showery atmosphere through the next several days, where everything's just kind of incited by the sunshine and some little boundaries coming off of the area waterways like the harbor as well as the bay. But eventually some of these storms out to the west are going to edge closer and closer. Notice the more widespread rains out to our west and down to our south that goes through tomorrow as well as into the day on Friday. But this batch right here, Omaha to Minneapolis, that probably gets here I say on Sunday with a better risk of some showers and storms. But really each and every day, it's kind of rinse and repeat with the heat and humidity. 85 degrees, Toyota Ocean Harbor sky cam right now. Some of those bubbly clouds out in the background, but things are calm here at the harbor for commuting. Winds are calm and our heat index, pea soup, 91 degrees right now. And that's not the worst that it's been all day. This is actually rain cooled with a lot of these temperatures in the 70s to around 80. It's still 91 at Westminster. Didn't get rain there. It's 97 on the heat index out that way in Carroll County. And temperatures feel like triple digits around Denton. So there's still some areas where you're really sweating it out. Now into the rest of the afternoon and this evening, there are those spot showers and rumbles. But as we head through about sunset, as you follow the clock through about 8, 9 o'clock, all of that diminishes. Temperatures into the 70s overnight into early tomorrow morning. But we do it all over again tomorrow afternoon. There you go. After about 2, 3 o'clock, there are some of those spot showers and thunderstorms. If the kids are going to day camp, they may want to have some rain gear just kind of handy if one of these hits. Otherwise, I think the coverage is only about 20-30% that goes into the early evening hours before, again, that leaves into early on Friday and then comes back again during the day on Friday. In terms of rain totals, it could be 1/10 of an inch. It could be 1/4 of an inch. Could even be a little bit more than that if you get hit directly by one of these things. And that's going to be the case Thursday, Friday, even Saturday. There's that better chance rain on Sunday could finally drop us out of the 90s. That would be 6 or 7 days straight of 90+ for our heat wave. And it looks like the 90s, though, they come roaring back by next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Another group of Baltimore residents saying their gas was shut off for standing up to BGE, the new developments in the class action lawsuit against the company. A Baltimore community leader says the problem starts at home. What he believes needs to change to stop mass shootings like the one we had this past weekend. And next, the battle over marijuana legalization continues nationwide. We're learning more about sales here in Maryland. While nearly half of Americans now live in a state where anyone over 21 can buy and use marijuana recreationally, some Republican-led states are pushing back. Deep red states like Arkansas, Oklahoma, and the Dakotas all shooting down efforts to legalize weed. Meanwhile, legalization efforts are stuck but are still alive in New Hampshire and North Carolina, and advocates are pushing for referendums in Florida and Ohio. Now, marijuana became legal in Maryland just 4 days ago. On opening day, thousands of Marylanders flocked to recreational dispensaries. Shop owners and buyers telling Fox 45 News it was long overdue.
We've added staff, we've added product, we've added security. We put in a secure pickup window right behind me that's functioning to help take this influx, this new wave of interest that we're seeing efficiently, because we want it still to be a great experience for everybody.
I think it's gonna be crazy. Yeah? Yeah. I don't know how y'all gonna keep up with it. If y'all gonna give everybody an ounce and a half and then it's gonna reset, I don't know how that's gonna work.
But it's great to have new people out. Our focus has been always very much wellness centered on what this product can do to improve quality of life.
According to the Maryland Cannabis Administration, total recreational and medical sales for the state's first weekend selling pot totaled nearly $10.5 million. Fireworks gone wrong. What we're learning about how a family lost their home because somebody was not responsible with their holiday celebrations. Violent crime spiking on the 4th of July, the latest on mass shootings surrounding the holiday in Baltimore and around the nation. And a community saying their calls for help fell on deaf ears for months. The latest in the growing class action lawsuit against BGE.
There are new developments tonight in the class action lawsuit against BGE and those external gas regulators. We've learned another 200 people have signed on to sue.
It was just a week ago a judge sided with Baltimore homeowners, granting a 10-day temporary restraining order in this case. That move forced BGE to stop installing those controversial regulators and turn gas back on to the homes that had been shut off for objecting to the work. While BGE claims external regulators are for safety and to improve gas delivery citywide, residents say the project lacks transparency and is causing damage to homes and neighborhoods against their will.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live right now with details on that growing lawsuit. Amy?
Mary Kai, there's now more than 300 plaintiffs in this class action lawsuit. Among those new names now are some neighbors from West Baltimore. In West Baltimore today,
if they say they're going to turn you off, they turn you off.
Adrian Smith said it was a phone call from a girlfriend that alerted her to the battle unfolding in Federal Hill late last month.
3 women were being arrested, and I said, oh, okay. And that's how, and thank them, for doing that, because that's what it took.
Those 3 women zip-tied and put into the back of a police van June 22nd after intentionally blocking BGE contractors from installing external gas regulators in Federal Hill. But Smith says a similar problem simmered in West Baltimore last fall when they were the ones questioning why these new gas meters had to be installed.
Miss Barbara.
Petitioning and even attempting their own lawsuit against the utility giant.
It didn't add up, and we found it very difficult to get clear, definitive answers to why it was needed, and every neighbor was told a different story.
Smith said her gas was shut off from Halloween to Christmas for refusing an external regulator before finally giving in at the end of 2022.
We had no hot water and no cooking facilities.
Today, Fox 45 News spotted external regulators and signs of utility work all along North Smallwood Street. Some of these neighbors now joining the legal fight, pushing back on BGE.
Bullied their way down North Smallwood until every single house had an external regulator.
The lawyer representing several hundred Baltimore residents claims the class action lawsuit is about power and profits on the backs of customers.
This is not Federal Hill and Fells Point. This is Baltimore.
And regardless of how many names and neighborhoods are represented on paper, the impact of this suit, he says, is meant to help residents citywide.
And you're seeing right now the kinds of issues that unite us all. BG&E has tried to divide and conquer us, but we won't let it happen.
And today, BGE said it cannot comment on pending litigation, also saying it does not comment on individual customer complaints or accounts. This judge is set to be back in front of a judge next Monday afternoon. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. We continue our team coverage right now on the mass shooting that took place in South Baltimore over the weekend. Victims are still in the hospital after 2 people were killed and 28 others were shot early Sunday morning. Well, as we continue our investigation into what led up to the shooting, community leaders are saying the real issue starts at home. Tom Rogers reports.
Baltimore police are still on the hunt for whoever is responsible for the deadly mass shooting in Brooklyn Homes early Sunday morning, as a community block party and all those who attended or live in that community will be forever changed. The mayor, Baltimore police, state legislators, even the governor being blamed for what happened or are heard blaming each other. But lifelong Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith doesn't blame city or state leaders. He blames the violence directly on the breakdown at the home.
I hope I say it in a clear way. I don't care if it's offensive. There is no economic, educational, legal, or political solution to a moral and spiritual problem. This is a moral and spirit. This is demonic behavior. This does not exist in a civil society. What we're dealing with is beyond economics, education, legal arena, and politics. Anything they come from that perspective is simply a trade-off and not a solution. What we're doing is critiquing the symptoms of a sick society.
Now, Pastor Smith went on to say having 10 police officers present at Brooklyn Homes block party not have stopped the, quote, depraved mind from doing what it did. Tom Rogers, Fox 45 News.
Well, cities across the country, including Baltimore, saw a violent 4th of July. BPD identifying a man shot and killed yesterday. 53-year-old Michael Robb was shot on McHenry Street in southwest Baltimore. He is one of 183 people in the city killed this year.
The violence continued across the state. After midnight, a 14-year-old boy was killed in Wicomico County. 6 others were shot. That 14-year-old has been identified as Xavier Maddox. Police say it happened at a block party in Salisbury. None of the other victims has life-threatening injuries. Law enforcement says they are looking for suspects tonight. Governor Wes Moore responded to the state's second mass shooting within a week with a statement today saying the recent violence is ripping communities apart and it has to stop. He also said these tragedies impact all Marylanders, and he promised to continue efforts to stop gun violence in Baltimore.
Well, Washington, D.C. also dealing with a crime crisis on the 4th. 5 people dead across 9 shootings in the city yesterday and last night in the city. Sam Ford from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has the latest.
I was sitting there reading the email. I heard the combination of gunfire and fireworks.
ANC Commissioner Antoine Holmes talking about multiple shots fired and 9 people wounded by a drive-by on his street, Meade Northeast. No fatalities. But between yesterday evening and this morning, 17 people were shot, including a 10-year-old boy, and 5 killed in D.C. This is the 10th MPD put over a body on North Capitol Street. In a mayoral news conference, police announced no arrests. Mayor Bowser has peppered with questions, answering as she often does.
We have too many guns and too many violent people on the street, and we all need to do everything possible to prevent people who have guns from using them in our city.
Officials said 2 of the homicides occurred where they had set up 2 of those 28 GO teams of violence interrupters, one just before the setup, another while they were there.
They go to locations specifically based on prior data suggesting there's a history of gun violence. And they cannot prevent every incident.
This grandmother on Meade, who doesn't want to be identified, wants something done to stop the violence.
One of my nephews got hurt. He was 10 years old. 10 years old. He got shot in his back. Him and his mother got shot. Getting in their car to go home.
That was Sam Ford reporting. The Gun Violence Archive shows the 4th of July holiday has more mass shootings than any other day of the year since 2014. From 2020 through 2022, those numbers reached double digits. This year, we've seen mass shootings connected to celebrations in cities like Fort Worth, Texas, and Philadelphia.
And speaking of, new information now on that mass shooting in Fort Worth. Family members who lost loved ones are speaking out in the aftermath. At least 3 people are dead, 8 others hurt after several men shot into a crowd Monday night. At least one of those victims was a young person. Hundreds were gathered just hours after the end of a 4th of July celebration when the gunfire started.
Like, he was just laying there. Somebody gave my sister a picture of him just laying on the ground, just dead. No cover over him, nothing. He's just...
Police say they have not released any suspects' names yet.
An Anne Arundel County woman was shot in her sleep yesterday morning. Police say around 6:30, the victim brought herself to the hospital with a gunshot wound. The victim told officers that she got into an argument with her boyfriend before they both went to bed. She said she woke up to a loud bang and severe pain. 39-year-old Jason Gazaway has been arrested and charged with that shooting.
The suspect police believe is responsible for running over a woman with a stolen forklift and killing her is in court today. The Charles County Sheriff's Office says 20-year-old Bryce Brown took the forklift from Lowe's and rammed a parked car in a nearby parking lot. 73-year-old Gloristine Pinkney was inside the car. Police say she tried to run away before Brown hit her with the forklift and then took her car. He is facing charges, including first-degree murder.
The Baltimore County Police Department is sending a warning over car thefts for National Vehicle Theft Prevention Month. The advisory says to always park in well-lit areas like and take valuable items, outside of your car. Never leave keys in the vehicle and make sure you lock all your doors and windows. Now, the warning comes as local governments are battling a series of spikes in car thefts. Officials blame the surge in stolen vehicles on faulty security systems, particularly in Kias and Hyundais.
Well, last night we saw a case of 4th of July fireworks gone wrong in Montgomery County. Take a look at this. Just before 11, fire crews responded to a scene in Rockville where a home had caught fire. Investigators say a bag of fireworks that had been thrown out near the house ignited, starting the fire that spread to the home. The family made it out safely, but one firefighter was injured in the response. That firefighter is expected to survive.
A strike could be a disaster for the economy. The growing concerns over a union conflict with UPS leaders.
A worker shortage that could impact summer fun this year. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. The signs you need to look out for if you're going to the beach or the city pool.
And another risk of showers and storms building in after the rain that we saw today. For tomorrow, high temperatures again working up to around 90 degrees. We're going to be tracking it on the latest computer models on the Future Scan. It's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast hour by hour.
Making headlines, UPS and Teamsters are butting heads with potential strike on the way. Teamsters say UPS negotiators walked away from the table this morning. UPS says that's not true and accuses the union